Welcome back to SuperDoc Stories. I'm your host today, Dr. Mona Sodhi, and today I am over the moon excited to bring to you all Dr. Una. She is one of my Dream 100, as she would call it in her own words. She is the founder of the EntreeMD Business School, which is on a mission to help 100,000 physicians build profitable 7 and 8 figure businesses so they can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on their terms. She does this not only through the EntreeMD Business School, but also through her top 10 EntreeMD podcast and her best-selling books, not to mention. Dr. Una has been featured in Forbes many times, and I am so excited to bring her to the podcast. Welcome, Dr. Una.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, absolutely. So, in your own words, forget the bio, forget all that, you've got an amazing resume that I could talk about all day. In your words, Dr. Una, who are you really?
Well, let's see. There are a lot of parts here. Okay, so I'm a wife. I told you we just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and I'm a love girl. I love marriage. I love love. I'm all for that kind of stuff. I am a mom to 4 kids. I homeschool them, which is so valuable to me, and one of the reasons I go after business so hard, so I have the freedom to do what I want to do with them. I feel, leaving my kids stuff is good. It's a good thing to do, but installing in them what made me me is the real legacy. So that's the reason why I do that. And I am an entrepreneur. I never saw that coming. I'm a pediatrician. As working my job, never thought I thought maybe someday in the sweet by and by I'll own a business. But yeah, 15 months after residency, I started a practice. That was my first business. And now here we are, 5 businesses, businesses later.
Oh,
And I think at my core, I am somebody who really believes in people. And I believe that they are 1,000 times more valuable than they think they are. When I say value, I mean value they can produce. I think everybody will be shocked by their potential. And so I go about kind of activating people and help them become the best versions of themselves, which is really what I do in EntreeMD. When someone's like, I can't start a business, or I can't take my business to 1 million, or I can't buy my time back, I'm like, okay, let's look, because of course you can. Right. And I believe that in my core. Sometimes people are like, you're the first person who helped me believe in me, and it's just because in my core I truly believe that. And so when I do the work I do, I know the work will work, because I know there's so much in people than they realize. So yeah, that's just a little, non-scripted, non-resume Dr. Una.
yeah, I love that. There's so much to unpack there. I love that you use the word activate. You help activate people. You help them be the best version of themselves, be the physician entrepreneur that they didn't know they could be. And that's true. I've been coached by Dr. Una, and there's so many little nuggets here and there that every day that come to my mind about what I've learned from you. So thank you for that. And also homeschooling 4 children, running 5 businesses. I bet you never saw that coming.
I never saw any of this coming.
So tell me, you're a board certified pediatrician. 15 months after residency, we decide to open a practice. Okay. And then take me from there, from the time you opened that practice to starting EntreeMD, kind of what was life like back then?
Yeah, I would even take you a little further back just to give it context, because someone may think I decided to start a practice. I wish I did. That's not quite how it played out. I was working my job, minding my business, and my boss, who I'd worked with for 8 months on a 1 year contract, said, "Here's a 5 year contract. Like, I like working with you."
Ah,
And I'm like, no, sir, I'm going to need to move. Like, first of all, 5 years is forever. At that time, I'd been married for 3 years, and
yeah.
I just finished 3 years of residency. So my definition of forever was 3 years. And I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, no, sir. But I was like, I'm moving anyway, so I'm not going to be able to do this, contract. And he said, if you're moving, you should start your own practice. I'm like, you have lost your ever loving mind. Like, who? Who starts a practice a year out of residency? And in case you missed this bump here, I'm pregnant. Like, this is not something we're going to do. And so he says, well, in the beginning, your baby will need you a lot. Your practice won't need you as much. And then by the time your baby's older and needs you a little less, the practice will need you more. You just fine. Like, this is the best time to start a practice. I'd like to tell you, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let me go do that. But I didn't do that either. I was like, whatever. And then we had another mentor of ours come and say, look, it's time for you guys to start your own business. And I'm like, what is this? Right. And so I literally started combing through websites of practices, just, looking at their Google reviews. Okay, these are the services people offer. These are things people like. These are things people don't like, and all of that. And in my ignorance, I was like, yeah, I can start a practice. Like, we'll hang the shingle. The people will
Yep.
come. This will be great.
Mhm.
So I decided. So this was 4 months after I had my son. So my second child, actually, a month after I had him.
Oh,
So
4th
like
trimester.
a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I said yes and started looking for places. I remember going to buildings and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna love this place. There's a lot of foot traffic, and there's another ENT doc here. Like, it's just amazing." I go into the building, and it's four walls. I'm like, "Can somebody please explain to me what is happening?" They're like, "Oh yeah, it's a vanilla shell. You build it out." We go talk to the landlord, who happens to be an architect, and it's like, "Oh yeah, the build out will cost like $72 per square foot." I was like, "For a building I'm gonna rent? Like, you guys are like." That's how green I was. I didn't know anything about anything. So needless to say, we passed on that. I was like, "Lord, you have to give me a building where a doctor just moved out of and it's already built out,
Yep.
because that's the only way this is
Yep.
happening." And we found that. And so I started the practice thinking, I'm a good doctor. I have good bedside manners. My patients love me. Now, this was an hour away from where my job was. So I didn't take any patients with me. And I was like, I'm going to hang this shingle and all the people are going to come because they've been waiting for me. Right. And so I hang the shingle and nobody comes. I remember sitting looking like, why is the door not opening? Why are people
Mhm.
not coming here? Like, why is the phone not ringing? What is happening? And that was the first time it dawned on me that I was going to need to market. I was
Mhm.
going to need to go build a referral base. I was going to need to do all these things. I was so terrified. If I did not have a lease I had signed, utilities I had signed, all these contracts, I would have backed out of it. And
Mhm.
that's the truth. But like, so I felt like I was stuck, right? Like, I have all these things. I have
Mhm.
to do what I have to do. And, my husband's like, well, till you get all the patients you want, your job is to get all the patients you want. I want you to imagine me going to an OBGYN's office, and I was terrified of talking to the office manager. Forget the doctor. Because I'm like, I'm this person here. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not really an entrepreneur. You know, I was terrified of talking. So I settled for the front desk, right? And say, okay, hey, I have this flyers, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like a deer caught in headlights. I was like someone who was stuck. I was like, what are we going to do about this? Everybody understands like building a practice, and I don't. And then I read a book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog. And in that book, he said, if you see somebody running a business that looks better than yours, they're not better than you. They just know something you don't know. And all business skills are learnable. That line was my saving grace. All business skills are learnable. I was like, so hold up. I don't know anything about marketing or selling or leading team. Dr. Mona, I was the team.
Mhm.
I answered my own phones, worked up my own patients, saw the patients, went after that, gave them their vaccines, sent the claims to the insurance company. I hired nobody. And it wasn't because I was managing costs, which I was, but that wasn't the primary reason. The primary reason was like, who will follow me? I don't even know what I'm doing. This whole place is a mess. Like, who will follow me? That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So when he said all business skills I learned about, I'm like, hang on. I don't know anything about marketing, selling, leading a team, profit and loss statement, or any of those things, but I am very good at learning.
Mhm.
I'm a physician. Have you seen the size of our textbooks? Have you seen the number of,
Yeah,
procedures
medicine,
we have
right?
to learn to do?
Mhm.
Like, I'm good at this stuff.
Mhm.
And so that's when I started the process of learning. So if I don't know how to market, it's a learning deficiency. It's not a problem. If I don't know how to lead a team, literally I buy books like How to Hire and Fire, right? Like, and all of these things. And so I started learning and applying those things.
Mhm.
And one of my zones of genius, I guess, is I may not know everything, but I will throw speed and volume behind the things that I do know. Right. So as I learn speed to implementation and a lot of implementation.
Mhm.
And, you know, within the first 3 years, we hit 1 million in revenue, right?
Right.
Which was shocking. And, like, never thought of that. And I found a doctor who was willing to work every Friday. And so I had a long weekend every weekend. The
Oh,
money was working in the practice. Everything was good. It was like, oh my. nice. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, so now that's 10 years ago, I just had this knowing, for one of a better way to describe it, right? I wake up in the morning, I'm doing my morning routine and all of those things, prayer, meditation, all that. I just have this knowing, medicine as we know it is gone. If
Mm.
all you know how to do is put hands on patients, you are going to be out of luck. So it is time to reinvent yourself, retool yourself to be ready for the next phase for the physician community. Now, in 2026, if I tell you this, it makes sense. So I want you to imagine how silly it sounded 10 years ago. But it was so strong that so I went like, okay, so if I cannot have impact and create revenue by seeing patients, what could I do? I was like, okay, I could be the CEO of my practice, which is very different from being the lead pediatrician,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
CEOs get paid well. I
Yep.
was like, I could do that. I could speak. I mean, people build seven-figure businesses out of speaking.
Yep.
I could be a consultant. I didn't even know what a coach was, right? I could be a consultant. I could write books. I'm thinking about all these things. And I start this process of retooling myself, right?
Yeah.
And a few months into it, I said, it's not going to be bad for me. It's going to be bad for a million physicians.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no time for me to learn all this stuff and come back and say, hey, physicians, this is what we need to do. We need to go on this journey together. And that's when EntreeMD was born.
I
It's
love
like we have to retool ourselves to be ready for what is coming. We used to have a monopoly of the market. That monopoly is going away, and we're going to have to compete. It's going to be so ugly. In fact, the picture I had was it's going to be a bloodbath. Like it's going to be really bad. And so I started EntreeMD. Initially started with some one-on-one coaching, and then the podcast. And then I started doing events, and then the EntreeMD Business School with one mission. And it's all, I learned from movements, if you can shift
it.
10% of a community, you can shift the whole community. So I'm
Yep.
like, okay, so 1,000,000 physicians, 10% is 100,000. I
Yep.
got one mission. If I can help 100,000, they will affect the other 900,000 and my work is done. Right. So yeah, that's kind of, how all of that happened in a snapshot. But this has been many, many years in the making.
Wow. Wow. Just so many nuggets there that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to listen to my own podcast over and over again just to learn from this. So I was finishing training in 2015, and I remember at that time they were like, private practice is dead. Just work for the hospital, get your paycheck, be happy, be grateful you got into med school. The whole thing back then was now it's hard to get into med school. There was no option of private practice. So I wish I had met you then. I really do. And what you've done for the community is just amazing, amazing, amazing. So tell me, so EntreeMD launched in 2016, roughly. The idea bloomed around that time. So tell me, you're working as a pediatrician at the same time as launching this. Okay. And you had a 4 month old, or you had no, now you had 3 kids or 4 kids by this time?
2016, I had 4 kids.
You had 4 kids already.
I
Okay.
had all four. Yes.
Okay. Tell me
How in the world?
how did we manage this?
Okay, so let's look back. Now, first of all, I will say I want to take you back to a night. This must have been 2014, 2014, thereabout. But this is important for a reason. When I started my practice, I couldn't get any loans. And
Mhm.
because, I was born here, I grew up here for a while. I went back to Nigeria, did medical school there, didn't come back till after medical school. So I didn't have credit history. I didn't have any of those things,
Yep.
right? And I didn't know about it. So when I was a resident, I didn't get credit cards to build a credit history. Like I didn't know any of those things. So
Yep.
I couldn't quite qualify for a loan. And so I had to self fund my practice. And so I got a job in the urgent care. And man, I was working almost part time hours, like when I first started the practice, in addition to all the
Mhm.
things, to self fund the practice.
Mhm.
So I remember coming back one night and I had worked all day at the practice, then done a 4 p.m. to 12 midnight shift, and then drove back home. So I probably got home about 1 a.m. And I remember just sitting there. It was just like the reading light in a corner that was on. So for the most part, the kitchen was dark, and I just sat there. It's like, this is crazy. There
Mhm.
has to be another way to do
Yep,
life,
yep,
right? And at this point, I had a like a 2.5 year old and a 4 month old, and I'd call, and my husband's like, "Yeah, the 2 year old, yeah, she's doing good. She had Capri Sun for lunch." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, what are we doing here?" And in that moment, I had this thought that life is going to be chaotic for a little bit.
mhm,
And if you play your cards right, it can become very peaceful.
sure.
And the perfection and balance, and you're like, I want my house to be perfect, and all this stuff. You need to let go of that, understanding that this is a season. Like your life is different. You
Mhm,
have two kids under the age of 2.5.
mhm,
You have this job you're working. You
mhm.
have this new practice you started, and you and your husband started a church. Like, the,
Yeah, we forgot to
you-
mention that that
I mean, like there's more things coming out, right?
Yep.
And so so the first part was I allowed the season to be what it was.
Mhm.
I was not trying to make my season look like somebody else's season at 50 when they're kind of all settled and
Yep,
stuff like that. So that was the first thing. So I had a higher tolerance for things not being exactly the way I wanted them to be,
yep.
right? Whether that's the balance or my house or whatever. So that's the starting point.
Mhm.
But back to your question, I think one of the things I did was I started building with the exit in mind.
Ah,
Right?
okay.
Like, so
Mhm,
from the day I saw my first patient, I remember thinking, "Okay, so this thing I just did, I'm gonna do it 20 times a day till I'm 60?" I'm like, "I got a problem with that."
mhm,
Like, I don't know what else is out there, and I had no clue what was out there, but I was like, "There's no way I'm doing that." And so I said, "I'm gonna give this 10 years of my life, and I'm done. Like, I'm
mhm.
out of here."
Yep,
And so because of that, when I started building, I would build going like, how do I build this in such a way it can work without me from the beginning? That was always my question.
the
So when I
pediatric.
hired the doctor, yes. So
Mhm,
when I hired the doctor who would work a day a week,
mhm.
I did that because I wanted my patients to start getting used to
Yep,
other doctors being
yep,
there, even though I could not imagine putting another doctor's payroll on my payroll because I was like, that's a lot of money, right? Like,
mhm,
but at least I could get somebody to work a day a week.
mhm.
So I would say the biggest thing for me was delegation from the very beginning. So with my kids, I had a lot of help. Some
Mhm,
of them, I have a lot of mentees, right?
mhm.
So my mentees, I'm like, this is the way mentorship is going to work. It's going to be a win-win situation. So I'm going to help you a lot. You're going to help me a lot. That's the way
Yep,
that's going to work. So I had a lot of them who would help me do stuff. We invested heavily in nannies, and when I say invest, I don't mean invested all the money in the world, but we made sure that we had them because there's no way to do what I do and also do all the things for the kids. It just doesn't
absolutely.
exist.
Yep.
I was fine with not doing shopping, not for the house, not for my clothes, not for
Mhm.
any of the stuff. I gave away as much as I could give away. I started practicing this thing of doing what only I could do. Now, in the beginning, it was a challenge because, like most people, I thought I was the only person who could do all the things I did, which is always a lie.
Yep,
It is
absolutely.
always a lie. But my husband is like, you cannot want the life you want and then do everything.
Yep,
Those two things are not compatible. So you're gonna have to give up some things to go higher. And so I just started getting things off. Like even to cooking. Last time I cooked was probably 2015. You can't tell anybody. Everybody listening, you can't tell anybody. But yeah, so it's over a decade ago, and I'm like, it is what it is, you know. So delegation
yep,
was a big thing for me, and the hardest thing of delegation is the mindset of it, right? Like, I'm the only one who can do this, or I don't want to
mhm,
bother people, I don't want to ask people. I had to let go of all of that. It took me a minute, but
absolutely.
I
I think
did.
a lot of women fall prey to that. They think they've
Yeah,
gotta cook, they've gotta clean, and they've gotta bring home the bacon. I mean, it's too much for any human to do, and I really need to get your husband on the roster for this podcast because it sounds like he's got a lotta gems himself.
he
That
does.
for our listeners, this is huge. I mean, delegate, 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 and don't feel bad about it. It is a mindset issue for sure.
It is, and the truth of the matter, like, if I can give people a buffet, I don't cook, I don't clean, I don't shop for house stuff. I don't shop for school supplies. I don't shop for my clothes. Now you can shop for your clothes if you want. I don't care. So I don't shop for my clothes.
Mhm,
Um, when I had my kids, there was this time period I had them in a private school. I had somebody who would take them to school and bring them back, and I did not feel bad about it for 1 second.
yep.
right? Like I'm like, yeah, they can do that just fine.
Yep.
Even now that I homeschool them, when I homeschooled the older two alone, because there was a period where it was just them, the younger two were in school. I homeschooled them with independent learners, so we could do that. When I brought the younger two back, I hired a tutor for my homeschool. Like I see my homeschool as an institute.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And so if I had an institute, I would not be trying to run the institute myself. And so I develop what I want as their curriculum. I develop the extracurricular things, and then I throw someone at it. I'm like, and go. Right. And so I am constantly looking for what to get on my plate. Sometimes I'll make my to-do list for the week and I'm like, okay, what are the things on here? Because we're blind to this stuff, right?
Mhm.
After a while, you
Mhm.
stop
Yep.
seeing what you can. I'm like, what are these things? What are the things on here
Yep.
that I don't need to do? Like somebody in my world right now could do them. And then I
Yep.
get them off my plate, you know,
Yep.
but it's your life becomes beautiful
Yep.
when you can delegate.
I love that. It's like a reverse to-do list. It's like let's see how much we can possibly cross off. I'm going to take some notes here on this because this is amazing. This is really really gold. And so you delegated to kind of get EntreeMD off the ground and your pediatric practice going. And then when did you kind of tell me like when did you realize that EntreeMD was a real thing and it wasn't just
Ah.
coaching? One you said it started as one-on-one and then it moved to group, but when did you have that realization that hey, this is it. This is the thing I'm here to do.
Wow, nobody has ever asked me that before. But yeah, that is a great question. Okay, so there are two times. Um, the first time was, let me see. So EntreMD, our first official meeting was September 29th, 2018. And so I started doing, I just, had a, like with all the marketing skills I had in the world, I got 6 doctors and 3 medical students to attend this thing, right? When I say meeting, that, okay. So we meet at Maggiano's Little Italy. We
Oh,
have this whole thing, right? We have this whole thing. And I share the vision and all of that. So I started doing one-on-one coaching. I probably had 1 or 2 or 3 clients at any point in time. And then I decided to do an event, which the decision behind that is a whole other podcast episode. But I tried to do an event in June of 2019,
okay.
right? And at that event, I had learned how to do a 1 day event. Okay. I
Okay.
had learned this in a program. And I was like, okay, I'll do this 1 day event. And I'm going to create this program called the Freedom Formula Masterclass. It's going to be 12 weeks long. We're going to work with some doctors. It's going to completely change their lives. It's going to be amazing. So remember, the first time I had 6 people, right? With 3 medical students. So we
Mhm.
start promoting this thing. We had 47 people come from this meeting,
Wow.
and they came from 8 different states. I'm
Incredible.
like, people hopped on planes
Uh-huh.
to come to this event? Like, this is nuts. And then after that, people talked about everything that happened and how it was so transformational and all of this. And that was the first moment I was like, huh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was like the event kind of put us on the map in a way, like 47 people, right? Like, what kind of map? But still, it put us on the map in a way.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was like,
Amazing.
okay.
Getting on
So that
planes?
was the first time. Say
Mhm.
that again?
I said they all got on planes to come see you? Like, that's fantastic. That's a signal. That's a
That's
signal
the
right
signal, right?
there. Yep. Yep.
So that happened. And so after that, we had our first, group program. And so we probably had about 30-ish docs in it. And we did that for 12 weeks. And after 12 weeks, I was like, they would know that they need to continue because if you get these kind of results in 12 weeks, if you keep going at it, what could happen? And they're
Yep.
like, bye, Dr. Una, see you later.
Uh-huh.
It was the most shocking. I was like, no, like, no, we started the momentum. Don't stop.
Yep.
Right. And so, and so after that, I vowed never to do a 12-week program for as long as I lived. And that's me, right? Because I know the compounding effect, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yep.
So after that, I did a 9-month program. We called it the 6 Figure Club, and that was kind of good, but not quite what I wanted. But okay, it was great.
Mhm.
And then in May of 2020, so now the following year, we're about to do EntreeMD Live, and which was the event I did in 2019. I had this sense, almost like an invitation. You're coaching people, you're doing programs here and there. Will you say yes to helping the doctors? Would you devote your life to doing this? Would you do it like you mean it? Would you take it like it's a million physicians? Like, would you take it like the assignment it is and go all in on it? I was like, excuse you, I'm a socially awkward, super shy introvert. I don't want anything to do with that. Like, I don't want to be not responsible, but I don't want to take
Yep,
on a mission of a million physicians. Like, no, no, sir, I don't want to do that.
yep,
you know? And it was just this nagging thing, if you will. And I think after a month or so, I was like, okay, I'll do it. Now, if I would do it, that would also mean it would also mean it's not a 12-week program here, a thing here, like like you're gonna do something. I was like, okay, so we'll do the EntreMD Business School.
ah,
And I was like, okay, but who is fooling who though? I mean, like, you've run one business, you don't
mhm,
have a business degree. I
yep,
mean, so Harvard says they have a business school, Emory says they have a business school. Now you claim you have a business school. Like, this is crazy, right?
mhm,
And so these are all the things I'm thinking. But at the back of my mind is still like, are you gonna say yes? Are you gonna help the physicians? Are you gonna do it like you mean it? Are you gonna go all out? Are you gonna give it your all? And so we had EntreMD live that year,
yeah,
June 27, 2020.
wow,
And that's when we launched the EntreMD Business School.
amazing.
And in that moment, before the school was launched, just me saying yes to it, I knew this is it. This is what you need to do. And it's almost 6 years now, and it's being able to serve physicians in that capacity and see their lives change, and just keep saying yes to the assignment. That's yeah,
I,
that was the moment.
I love that.
Very interesting question.
Yeah, and there's so much to learn there too. Where I know, like from my experience in SuperDoc Tech, you've got to ask your clients, "How are you doing? What's working? What's not?" They will tell you the direction that you need to go in. And we did a 12-week program as well. And then at the end, some of them were like, "Well, we want more," and we're like, "Okay, let's do it." And Marissa and I always say, we're building this plane as it's flying, literally. And but that's what you need to do. You need to get good at kind of morphing and pivoting into what your clients need. They will tell you.
Yeah.
You don't know what they need. They will tell you what they need. And then you've got to ask yourself, are you ready to rise to the occasion? I
Yeah.
love that. That's really beautiful. So I want to pivot a little bit to kind of the physician who's listening to this, maybe thinking about leaving their W-2 job, starting a business, starting an online practice, starting a coaching platform, that idea that's been eating away at them, that they're like, I know I'm the best person for this. This is my idea, but I don't know how to do it. I want to kind of speak to that person a little bit. Um, you've seen it all. You've seen dozens, thousands of physicians. What do you think the difference is between those physicians who, like you said, rise to the occasion and those who stay stuck?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so let me give you a few differences that I've known. And first of all, I think I want to say this to anyone who's thinking of either starting a business or taking their business to where they secretly know it can go to, but maybe they've never committed to, and it's all possible, and that's the truth.
Yep.
It's all possible. We have to understand that. But so the first thing which follows after that is the first thing is that I've noticed is the people who thrive are the people who immerse themselves in what could be. And the reason why this is important for physicians is we don't have enough examples of what is possible. So throughout our training, we're told, oh, private practice is not a thing. You can't be an entrepreneur. You're a one trick pony. Just stay here and focus and take care of the patients. Don't worry about anything else. And we don't realize how deeply rooted that is in our mind. So the entire time there's this whole narrative. You can't do this. You can't do this. You're an imposter. You're not somebody who can do this. This is for entrepreneurs, blah, 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 blah. So it is so powerfully installed in our minds that
Hmm.
we have to put ourselves around people who do what we are aspiring to do for fun,
Yep.
right? And
Love
every
it.
time you stay with them, you're listening to them, you're hearing their stories, you're watching them navigate these things. It is uninstalling
Yep.
the faulty software,
Yep.
and you're
When-
putting in a new one that lets you know this is possible. Of
Yep.
course I can. There's nothing in my way. I'm not
Yep.
a one trick pony. I
Yep.
I became a physician so I can become an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And that looks many different ways, right? That could be podcasts that you listen to, right? So Dr. Mona, for example, your podcast, someone's listening to this. Every time they're listening to this, they're becoming quote unquote brainwashed for success, same way they're brainwashed not to succeed as entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
It could be books that they read, it could be programs they're a part of. So you were in the EntreMD Business School, so we are big on community. And the reason we're big on community is not just, oh, I have all these friends, is you get to see people. You're sitting, so it's like, oh, I'm going to crack a million this year. And you watch them over the year do it and crack the million. Like, that's an education on its own. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So the first is immersion in any way they can do it, right? It's immersion. The people who do that tend to
Mhm.
do better. The second thing is, make the people who make a commitment to learn business skills. There is nothing we did in medical school residency fellowship that prepared us to be entrepreneurs. Now, it gave us some advantages. For instance, we have incredible work ethic. We understand delayed gratification. We will always put people before profits, and also it gave us some good stuff, but it didn't give us any business skills, right? And so if someone is in resistance, like, I don't want to learn marketing, I don't like marketing, or I don't like people, so I'm not building a team, like, the resistance just leads to pain and suffering, right? The
Mhm.
people I've seen thrive recognize, I have a new set of skills I need to learn now, and
Mhm.
and they pay the price to learn it, like they learn it, right? So that's the second one. And then the third one, the people I see thrive, they're predisposed, they're big on massive action. And when I
Mhm.
say massive action, I mean speed. So they learn something today, they implement the day, or they implement the next day, not 5 months from now,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
they implement quickly, and they do a lot of reps,
That's huge.
right? Yeah. So because everything falls apart if this is not there,
I want
right?
to say something. I think as physicians, sometimes we fall into the trap of overconsumption and education, and we don't implement. So
Yeah.
if you take nothing away from this, it's to just speed and volume, as Dr. Una says, speed
Speed
and
and
volume.
volume. And
That's
there's
all.
a name for that. We call it learnitis.
Yep.
When you're learning and learning and learning and
Yep.
not doing, it's a
Yep.
disease. It's called learnitis, right? and
It
and
is.
and the thing
Physicians
about
are
that,
prone to it. Yep.
yeah,
We have a
yeah,
genetic predisposition for it. We love to nerd out, to
yeah,
read. I mean, I was on this streak. I remember when I was postpartum with baby number two, and I was just binge and binge on the podcast and the learn about weight loss, learn about this, learn about that. And then lo and behold, next thing I knew, I'm like, I need to actually do the thing and get board certified in obesity medicine and open a practice, not just listen to other people talk about it.
correct,
Right. So just do the
correct.
thing.
Do the
Just do it.
thing. Yeah.
Do it.
And so for me, that's why when I work with people, I de-emphasize the learning and overemphasize the doing. Not meaning that we don't learn, but we learn to do. The only purpose of learning is to do, is to
Yep.
know how to do, right? Like, so we don't need another certificate. We don't need, you know what I mean? We don't need another certificate. So we don't need to learn to pass an exam, not as entrepreneurs, but as
Nope.
an entrepreneur, it's like driving.
Yep.
You can read the book all you want, but to become good at driving, you have to go drive. And so, as entrepreneurs, you can't read your way to marketing mastery, or read your way to being a great team leader, or read your way to learning to understand a profit and loss statement. Like, you're gonna have to do these things. And so,
Absolutely.
the doers, the strategic doers, right? Because they learn and do, they
Yep.
thrive. It's so wild how
Yes.
well they do.
And it's okay to make a mistake, and you will, and it's fine.
Many.
That's
Many,
the
many.
whole point.
Like, we would need a whole podcast episode to talk about, oh, what have your mistakes been over the last 15
Yeah.
years as an entrepreneur? But the thing is, in medicine, like, you make a mistake, maybe, something happens to the patient. Maybe not, but maybe something happens to the patient. But entrepreneurship, like, we even talk about it, where, like, you win or you learn, right?
Yep.
Like, your
Mhm.
mistakes, you have the option of making them all profitable, meaning that you take the thing, you analyze the thing, you're like, knowing what I now know, how would I approach this differently? And so every mistake gives you a gift of wisdom,
Yep.
right? Which is so much better than say, oh, I failed at that. Like, entrepreneurship, like, you don't fail at it. You can have failed projects, but you don't fail, right? You're gonna have
That's
many failed like, that's the only way to win as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Totally. I think a lot of us go into entrepreneurship as perfectionists and not afraid to make a mistake because maybe during our training we had a senior resident that was, barking down our throat like, you don't mess this up, don't mess up that potassium water, you'll kill the patient, right? And you hear that voice, it's that bad software you talked about. You need to undo that as an entrepreneur and take risk and make mistakes and fall flat on your face, and it's okay.
It's
But
okay.
having that community to kind of be there and pick you up is critical. That's really critical. Speaking of mistakes, I did want to ask you a question, Dr. Una, because you've built this uh, amazing brand of EntreMD. When you see physicians building a brand, is there a common mistake that you see played out kind of over and over again that you would advise against for our listeners?
Yeah, I think one of I'm big on the profits, and I'm big on the profits because we don't talk about it, not because I care that much about money, but I see people build brands and they optimize for the look of the brand and the followers of the brand. And if you
Yep.
look, there's no monetization strategy, and then they're mad it doesn't make money, but it's not set up to.
Yes.
Right? Like,
100%.
so somebody shows up on social media, the things that will get you the most engagement are probably also the things that will get you the least clients and the least patients. And so
Mhm.
the people are like, yeah, I got more engagement on my funny cat videos or its equivalent. And so they
Yep.
keep doing that
Keeping it.
instead of doing what will strategically grow the business. So I think it's seeing a brand as a brand just because, as opposed to seeing a brand as a business asset.
Right. I love
Right? So
that.
the business asset should do what businesses do, which is to just serve the people, and it should generate revenue, which is a win-win situation. So I think that's the biggest one I see. So you see people who are follower rich and dollar poor.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
In our line at SuperDoc, we talk to a lot of doctors who get a little obsessive over their website and the beauty of it and the aesthetics and the font and the colors. And we make websites for people. Like that's our business, but I'm here to tell you, you don't even need a website. You could have a business without a website, but people, they just think I need an LLC, I need a website. They've been told these stories like this is what you need to get started. Everybody has a website. Like actually no, you could just have a landing page and collect emails and that's all, you're good to go. But people perseverate on that, and I feel like it's almost this subconscious distraction from what actually matters, which is like you said, the profit. Like
Yeah,
the
because I mean,
brand.
like, if you have a pretty website and you have no email, no way to collect emails, it's like is essentially useless, right? Like, and you see this, right? This is your lane, right? You see a lot of these things, but and it's in business in general. We want to think my business exists to serve the people I'm called to serve in a profitable way at the highest level. That's what the business does. And
Mhm.
so if you have this at the top of your mind, you can then think more strategically. So everything in your business is serving and earning. You bring on a team member, serving and earning. You get a website, serving and earning. Like these two things need to be happening.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can have a very cute business that's not really doing anything, right? And we don't want that. We don't have time to waste. And to your question, where you're like, how do you do it all? One of the secrets to doing it all is going all in on the things that must be done and going all in on getting all the other stuff off your plate, right?
Yep.
And so you want to be laser clear on these are the top activities that give me the results I want. Like that is the most strategic way to think. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so good. So, so, so good. So don't have a pretty website unless you're a plastic surgeon. Maybe that these guys get the exception because they really need to sell the beauty of the, aesthetics they're creating, they're artists. But for the rest of us, you don't need a beautiful website. You don't need to worry about the font and all that. What drives your revenue? What are the most meaningful activities that are actually going to drive that up for you? That's what matters at the end of the day. That's what keeps the lights on. That's what pays your staff, right? I love that. That is so, so good. Thank you so much, Dr. Una, for that. Um, so, kind of winding down things a little bit, I do want to ask you kind of a little bit about a legacy and what you're thinking about. Like if EntreMD didn't exist tomorrow, what would you have? What would you want the messaging to have been? What would you want it to have stood for?
Um really, really, really what I would want it to stand for is being the vehicle that tipped the scales for physicians. where it activated 100,000 physicians who saw an alternate reality they could not unsee. They made it their reality and they told their world about it. So there's a ripple effect because what that would mean is out of that crop of physicians, you will have the advocates who will take care of stuff at, like the government level. You would have people who will take down the insurance companies. You have people who would whip big pharma into shape and, and change our medical education so our people are also trained so when they come out they can compete in the world they'll find themselves in. Like the ripple effect of doctors being activated is just so huge that yeah, that's what I wanted to stand for, that it activated the doctors who turned the healthcare space and everything around it right side up. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. That's beautiful. Like I said before when we were offline, I had about 1,000 questions that I really wanted to ask you about, and we're going to have to invite you back on the podcast so we can chip away at those. But you have dropped so many amazing pearls, so much wisdom on this podcast. Thank you so much, Dr. Una, for joining us here today. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so you're on a podcast platform already, so you can just type in EntreMD, so ENTREMD, and we talk shop all day, every day on it. We have over 500 episodes, so that's a we call it the free MBA for doctors. So you can do that, and always happy to talk with docs and stuff like that. You can contact us on our website, EntreMD.com. We'll be happy to chat with you.
Amazing. Thank you again, Dr. Una, for being such a fantastic guest today.
Thank you
All the
for
best.
having me.
Of course.